guys, welcome to another 6 Ages Gaming video. Today I have for you a Opus 1 meta report, and this is really just meant to be a quick snapshot of what decks are popping up, what we see out of the event in Italy, and where these decks are kind of evolved from and which direction they're going. But first, I want to give a very special thanks to Bakaneko for hosting the event. It was a 78-player event, so that's a huge turnout, and if I'm not mistaken, the second largest Final Fantasy TCG event to date, for at least the newest version of the card game. There was a 100-player event in Japan that had a Golbez deck that everyone talked about. We will cover that as well. The Final Fantasy Italy team for typing up all these lists. You'll see that they had posted the English version for us, and then Games Guardians for the visual list, which we will be using in this presentation. So I want to then get into what is a meta, and really this is just a loosely defined term as what are the top tier decks, what are the most consistent decks, what are we seeing. Now the results that we're going to be looking at today are specifically from Italy. However, there are lists that pop up, and I'm fairly confident there was a Earth Lightning list that topped in London, or top 4, top 8. And then the Golbez deck is really featured out of Japan, but I will be using the Italy list as reference because I want to stay the most up-to-date and most current that we can. So I want to stress that by no means is this meta solved. And what solved means is saying, okay, we have Earth, Fire, Cloud, Golbez deck, and that's it. Those are the top 2 decks, those are the only 2 decks you play, those 2 decks beat out everything else. No, that's not true. Best of 1 format is... This is where it really shines. It gives so much credit to the brewers. It lets people who want to bring new and innovative deck ideas to the tournament, and they can do very, very well with them. Now, we are seeing a common themes or common archetypes that pop up time to time, but we are seeing new decks week to week, event to event, that really help boost the benefit of that best of 1 event. Now, I want to stress there will be more videos like this in the future. I just wanted to do a very quick snapshot of where it was and what things were looking like. So maybe every once a month I'll kind of be doing a video like this. We'll see how events fall out and kind of what information we get. But I want to at least put together something together for you guys so we can look at a very quick highlight overview of what are 4 types of decks that we're seeing. So first we'll talk about the winning list from the Italy event, the Earth Lightning midrange. Now again, this one is kind of an underdog or a dark horse, what have you, that I want to call out simply because it's not something that we've seen a lot of. If you've been following the events out of Japan, or if you've been following some of the other ones across Europe or what have you, Earth Lightning hasn't really popped up a lot. So this is the deck overall. I will have a written list linked to Mognet in the comments below and in the description, so you can find where all these lists are, and they will just be the 1st through 4th place lists. But let's talk about this for a little bit. This is a mid-range list. You'll see it plays things like Cecil, Light Cloud, things to destroy your opponent's forwards. I really do love that it plays Odin. Obviously, I love that card. It does a lot for us, but it's playing 3 of each of them. So this deck is very, I want to break your stuff, and I want to have these big value creatures on the field. But let's talk about some of them individually. Light Cloud, I mean, I could talk about this for I think 3 of the 4 decks have it, if I'm not mistaken. A lot has been said about this card. It is hands down the best legend in the first set. There was a lot of discussion on this very early on. I got chewed out in the YouTube comments on the very first set review video that we did. Guess what? Turns out it is. It's in so many decks. It's so versatile because of the fact that it's light, so it can be light or shine. It can be put in any deck, and then people even splash clouds, like you can see in this list. He has 2 of the Fire Cloud, which he cannot cast, except I guess you could put it into play off Tama, but that's irrelevant. He's using it strictly for the special effects, so strictly for Meteor Rain, strictly for Omni Slash, and he has 2 of them in there. So this deck is really saying, I realize how good Light Cloud is. And he also has 2 Jessie, so you can tutor him up, and it says, I want this card every game. It has Omni Slash, it's an insanely strong ability, and it's going to win me the game. Enough has been said about Cloud. Lightning. Now this is a card that's been a favorite of mine for quite some time, but it's very, very specific in the type of list that it goes in, and I think this is probably the first shell that we knew all along it was going to be an Earth Lightning because those colors really work together in a control build, but this is the first deck that really utilizes it. Now, there's only playing 2 Legendary Lightnings, if I'm not mistaken, but Army of 1 is such a strong effect, and the fact that it gets a Odin for you. So really what you're going to be using this card is you get to tutor up an Odin, which is going to replace one of the resources that you spent into this, and then you can tutor up a 4-cost Odin if they have a 4 less you need to break, or a 7-cost Odin, which can win you the game on the next turn, depending on how the course of the game is going. And then Army of 1, haste, first strike, forces your opponent to block something. Lightning is going to kill whatever you're using this effect on. So you're effectively gaining 2 removal tools by playing this card, and of course you need another Lightning to discard for Army of 1, understandable. But this card adds a lot of value in terms of being able to just destroy stuff of your opponent's forwards. And again, it's a 9K, which is often very difficult to deal with. So you can see the theme that this deck is going in. Cecil, I personally love this card if, and a huge if, you know what the meta is going to be. And we'll talk a little bit later about those Fire Ice decks that are popping up a lot. And this card is a great counter to the Fire and Ice decks. Dealing 5,000 damage to their Snows, to their early Tifas, to their Sids. There's a lot of things that Cecil's effect will kill in those types of decks. Now, if you're playing a more mid-range and controlled type of meta, or those are the decks that you're planning on seeing, Cecil's not doing anything for you. So this is a card that can go from, it's an automatic 2 to 3 of if you really expect a heavy aggro meta, to you're not playing this card at all. So this is one of those things that it worked out very, very well for them. Clearly, they won the event off of it, and as we look at the top 8 lists, there were quite a few aggro lists, and if he just got paired up against those types of decks, he absolutely was just able to win his way through. And then Gilgamesh, Divider Effect, again, we just want to be able to destroy their forwards. And what I like about Gilgamesh is that he can't be bounced, or he cannot be returned to your hand by opponent's summons or abilities, so he's a great anti-water card by that effect. And then he has pay 2 lightning, give him 1,000 power. This is critically important to understand that you can, play your main phase 1, do whatever you're going to do, go to battle. You have up resources, so your opponent can't just freely block with a 9K, let's say, and assume that nothing bad is going to happen. Now, if you have 4 backups, you can produce 4 lightning crystal points. You can buff him up twice to 10K, kill their 9K, and he's still on your field for Divider the next turn. So overall, Gilgamesh is just such a key point, and I always stress it in our videos, but if you're going to be playing a lightning deck, the card you should absolutely be playing is, of course, Odin. 7-drop at a minimum for if you're going to be able to have room for it, and then playing some number of the Gilgamesh lines strictly because of how good the effect is. So that was the Earth Lightning deck. Now we're going to talk about Golbez the deck, or Golbez.deck, whatever have you. This list got second place at the Italy event. The thing I want to note here is this deck is originally from Japan. This was out of a 106 player event out of Japan. And this list, of course, is going to vary a little bit. There's going to be some changes from time to time. I'm using this list strictly because it was the most recent Golbez deck, but this really had its big debut in Japan. This deck is all about playing Golbez, getting the value off him, and having these creatures that you can get, or forwards out of your deck that you can get for absolute value. And it also plays things like Cloud of Darkness to play against in the mirror, so you can then break them and not be completely behind if they get the Golbez first. Speaking of Golbez himself, 6-drop 9K, and I will take this moment to say that I'm going to say 75% wrong about Golbez. I still strongly believe that we want to have a way that we can break him at instant speed, which is one of the things that's lacking. Of course, we could use Gilgamesh if we really want to. That's messy. There's a lot better ways hopefully coming down the pipeline. However, I did say that Golbez is one of those cards that gets better with every set that releases. So this is a deck that I think is very important to realize and keep in the back of your mind, and maybe we don't see this pop up for 2, 3, 4 events, what have you. Now, when Opus 2 comes out, then we should go, okay, I'm going to go on Mognet, I'm going to search by all 2-drops, because that's one of the things you can do with our search feature, and say, alright, what 2-drops can go in the deck for Golbez? Is there any new tools or new forwards that can we really get the value out of it? What are these key elements that we can pull out, and what are some of the key forwards that can help us turn the tide in our victory? And maybe it's Gordon if you want to play defensive. There's a lot of different tools for this. Warrior of Light, if you see that top left corner, is just a great asset as well. There's a lot of things that you can be doing with this card. Undoubtedly, one of the best cards that you can get off Golbez is Zidane. It's just an absurdly good card. And yes, his power is only at 3,000, so that does hurt a little bit, and it can be blocked by Snow, which was surprisingly relevant based on what the top 8 results were. But he can't be blocked by a cost of 4 or more, and he can't be targeted by spells or abilities. So ideally what you're going to be doing is attacking with Golbez, hopefully breaking him at instant speed in some way. I mean, he's a 9K attacker, so he's good by himself. And then you're going to be filling up a field with, let's say, a Zidane, a Warrior of Light, an Onion Knight, and a Gordon, or some combination of that. And it puts a lot of pressure on your opponent. Now, the downside is that they can't party attack, so I would like to see a 1 or 2 of Mime in the list, just so it can change its element. And then party attack, you get to draw a card. It does a lot of more things for the deck, but it does make your field go wide, and there's a lot of benefit to that by being able to grind down your opponent. And again, we're playing things like Gilgamesh in a very heavy quantity, and we're playing those effects like Strongest Sword. And this allows us to, because we're playing, 95% of the deck is forwards, we can use Strongest Sword, we can attack, activate this ability, break whatever their forward is, because again, 99% of the time it's going to break it, and clear the way for the forwards that we just got out of our deck with Golbez. Now, that is a very aggressive strategy, and it is a more all-in, heavy quotations around that, because this deck does very much rely on you having that, turn 1, hopefully turn 2 Golbez, because it is such a critical pivotal, really, point in the deck that it says, okay, I'm playing maybe a Earth Lightning core, but Golbez is really kind of the backbone of this deck, and our deck is not set up to go the long game. If we try to play a game where our opponent is playing backups, they're playing a more normal flow of the game, and they're playing a fair game, we're going to fall behind very, very quickly unless we hit a Golbez. So this is one of those decks you say, here's my opening 5. Is there a Golbez? No, they're all going to the bottom. Opening 5. Is there a Golbez? Cool, I probably win. Now that's a little bit of an exaggeration because, of course, your opponent could be playing Bahamut or other things, but Golbez does do a lot of great things for the deck and why he's so powerful. The thing I wanted to point out here, again, was Cloud of Darkness. This is a card that people originally played as like a 1 or a 2 of, and now it's appearing as a 3 of, strictly because, turns out, Golbez is a good card. This is a deck you should prepare for, and Cloud of Darkness can help reset the board, for lack of a better term. Now, again, they're going to go wide, they're going to break their Golbez, they're going to get a Zidane. Now, they're probably going to keep Zidane, because you're going to be able to be stuck with a, say, Cloud of Darkness, and that's kind of where the position that you'll be in, but there's other answers you have in your deck to Zidane. Now, the interesting thing here to note is, let's say they play their Golbez first, they break it, they go wide, you play your Golbez, and then you play Cloud of Darkness. Hopefully after you attack with Golbez, obviously keep in mind, this one is not like Shantauto, where it says it's going to be put into the break zone. So this will trigger Golbez's on-death effect. So you can not only reset their board, but break your own Golbez and then go wide again with it. And that is actually just a very neat interaction with the deck as well. So this is one of those ways it's excuse me, it's good to break your own Golbez, but it's also good for the control factor and a lot of other things that it does for the deck. So that's a very high-level overview of Golbez. Then we have a deck of Fire and Ice. This is the third place list from Italy. The interesting thing to note here is this is a more just value, I guess you would say, aggressive deck, where the ones that we've seen out of Japan were more discard-focused, so there is a little bit of a difference there. And it's maybe a 10-card difference. The backups are a lot of the same strategy. The summons are along the same lines. It's really just the forwards that change a little bit. So I wanted to, again, use this list because it did well in Italy. It still highlights one of the archetypes that we should talk about, but really this deck is all about playing those early value-aggressive guys, clearing the way for either land or snow, and then setting up your board in a way where you can say, I'm going to put all these guys on the field, then hopefully land a Bahamut, clear 2 of your blockers, and win the game on that turn. So again, I want to stress that after I got to play this deck on camera and after I played a few more games with it, I loved land, and I love snow, and it's absurd how good they are together. Land, of course, just being a value forward in the sense that he cannot be blocked by forwards with power greater than his. And if you're playing things like the backup, you can then, they block with a 7k, you buff him to 8k, he lives. So he's a very annoying card to try to block against if your opponent has the backup support. And then Snow gets to dull something when he attacks, and you can play the option of Shiva, and then be able to freeze their guys, and then they're stuck. So you can set this up as kind of a 2-card combo where hopefully they only have 1 or 2 backups. You can use Jill to tap and dull and freeze one of them. You can use Snow to attack, and then the pathway is clear for land. And let's say that they have 1 more blocker. Land's probably going to get under it, get the last point, a few points of damage in for you, and really make it frustrating for your opponent to try to control your board state because you have these 2 cards that work really, really well together, but also independently of one another and are just great aggressive cards. And I talked about Jill a little bit, just a value backup that freezes forwards when she comes into play. And this card is just absurd. When Opus 1 was first spoiled, I completely missed this because I didn't look at any of the starter cards for whatever reason. I just assumed that they were all going to be bad. And then I saw this card, and this has just been an absolute powerhouse and staple in every single deck that plays Ice. I mean, the EX Burst to freeze 2 things is so strong in its own effect. that if you flip this and they have 2 of them that you can freeze, you're going to be able to crack back for at least 2, 3, 4 points of damage sometimes, and a very well-timed Jill can win you the game on the spot. That's just being honest. And then her Surge special ability to forward, dull, and freeze, again, combos insanely well with Snow, or even Land that's saying, okay, I have multiple ways to dull your forwards. I have multiple forwards that say I'm going to be able to get around them or make so the block is not in your favor. And she really helps set up these more strategic, tempo-driven, aggro tempo rather, turns that can help get you in 2, 3, 4 points of damage in a turn. And there's been several games where I've been able to sculpt my turns, get in for 4 points of damage, and then my opponent go, okay, best case scenario, I'm going to get some more guys on the field, but I'm already so far behind that it's going to be hard to catch back up. And that is really what I love about this deck, just the strict tempo aggro role that it can play. And speaking of just a great card for the more aggressive and defensive when it needs to be is Squall. And this is a card that I mentioned in one of our videos recently, and there still seems to be some confusion, so I'll take a moment just to reiterate and restate and mention how good this card's effect is. Whenever this card is blocked or blocks or is blocked, choose a forward, deal 6,000 damage. Now again, this is how it will work. Block happens. There is a sequence here that the block happens. You cannot go to first strike damage until that 6,000 damage is resolved. Then you go to first strike damage. If you activate his ability, you then deal 12,000 damage to a forward, and guess what? That kills everything in the game. And then it goes to normal strike damage. So if you can abuse those first 2 layers of his ability triggering, and then if you will use his special as well, it can make it that your opponent is going to have a very hard time to block this card, or if you're playing against another aggressive deck, turns out you're going to be able to 2-for-1 them, and that's perfectly fine. If you 2-for-1 your opponent, they block the 6k, you shoot another 6k, and guess what? You have more guys to attack with. That's an okay spot to be in, especially with the way how resources work in this game and how much it can hurt, especially if they had to overpay for something, or if they did something that might not have been the most optimal play. Squall can heavily punish your opponent for trying to block, or maybe they just make a mistake and block, what have you. But this is a card that I just absolutely love to play. And then one of our last cards we have is Tifa, Water Kick. I mean, we all know how great this card is. We're playing Zangan as well, so it has haste. Water Kick can dull and freeze something, get out of the way. An important thing to note here is that it does kill Squall in the mirror, so that is very, 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 very important, because if you have 2 Squalls in the field, it creates this really awkward stare-down match. Sure, you can play something like Snow and tap it out of the way, but that's still not ideal because it's still on the field and you can't rely on tapping it down every turn. So Tifa does an amazing job at being able to Water Kick away the Squall and lets you continue with your more aggressive plans. So Tifa is something that a lot of people have a more mixed opinion on, and some people say it's not worth playing at all. Maybe you just run the starter Tifa, maybe you run one of the 2-drop Tifa just so you can get another Water Kick. There is a lot of room to build off of this and a lot of different ways that you can take this. One of the last things I want to talk about is Cloud Control. Now, I called it that because there wasn't a deck name, and that's really what this is. This is the 4th place list, but more importantly, this is just the Earth, Fire, Cloud deck that we're seeing. Now, there's a bunch of different variations on this, and I think there's probably, but if we look at all the lists in Japan, if we look at the list that did well in London, I'm pretty sure there's one that was in the top 8 of London as well. If we look at this list right here, there's probably a good 20 cards that are different between all of these lists and how different they have been. But the one common theme, again, is Light Cloud. And I won't go on a rant about Light Cloud again because we've already ventured down that avenue and we understand how good Light Cloud is. Cough, best L in the set, we get it. However, there's a lot of other interesting cards that really promote to this more mid-range or control factor where we really kind of look at some of the pieces and how great of value those cards are. One of the cards I don't mention in a call-out specifically, but I want to highlight here is the interaction between Delita and Jessie. Delita can break a Jessie, let you search another Cloud, and it's a 9k 3-drop. That is absurd for a power level and can wall off your opponent for a couple turns. However, let's get right into it. We've talked about Fire and Ice. So Fire and Ice is a really, I won't say dominant strategy, but it's an archetype that we have to respect. So then we have Guy here in our Cloud Control deck that says, okay, it's a 4-drop 8k with Brave. Maybe not the most exciting, but what does it do? He cannot become dulled by your opponent's summons or abilities. Woo! If you're going against an Ice opponent and you have Guy and he has Brave, it's going to be really hard for them to kind of get through that. Now again, Land can kind of sneak under him and get by, but they're going to try to rely on things like Snow. They're going to try to rely on Jill that dull your guys and get them out of the way. And Guy just puts up a wall saying, yo, what's up? And then he just blocks for days and days and days. and that's a perfectly fine spot to be in. So this is a card that is just an absolute great. Again, I'm going to call this one more of a meta call because it's really great against ice decks, and it kind of falls off par compared to other decks. But if you're expecting a lot of ice, and again, as we've seen from this top 8 list, and if we've seen from Japan, Fire and Ice is kind of here to stay. That's just one of the decks you can expect to see. So this is a card that I would say if I'm playing Earth Fire, I'm at least playing 1 or 2 of these. I don't think 3 is correct because there's no S to discard, and chances are if you're using an ice deck, it's going to be there for a while, so drawing the other ones feel bad. But I think this is a card that you should absolutely consider playing and does add a lot of value to the deck based on your meta. One of the card combinations that I just wanted to point out, even though it was only a 1-1, and this is something I would like to see bumped up to a 2-2 if I was changing some of the numbers, is Talma and Shantoto. The thing here to realize is that Talma allows you to play Shantoto on your opponent's turn. So if they go to combat and they say, okay, I have 4 forwards, I'm gonna attack these guys, and you just simply pass on your last turn, you can then say, all right, I'm gonna pay X, banish Talma, play Shantoto, wipe out your field. You're done, great. And your opponent's gonna have a very hard time coming back from that, and it puts them in a position where they said, oh crap, I overextended, I have only 1 or 2 cards in hand. Maybe they play something during their second main. Chances are probably not, because if you time this correctly, you're going to be able to punish them heavily for it. The other thing I want to really stress is that her effect gets rid of Golbez, and it gets rid of those decks that say when they go to the break zone, because it specifically removes them from game. And I see part of that image did get cut off a little bit, sorry about that. But the remove all forwards from the game text is still there, and I just, again, want to stress how important that is, because it allows us to have an answer to these other decks that we're seeing and ways to counter them. And again, another card that, again, I personally still don't believe it should be a 3 of. I've accepted that it's going to be a 1 to 2 of in most of my Fire decks that are playing the more longer game. But Bahamut is a legend that's been under a lot of discussion points lately. And I like it if you're expecting a lot of Golbez, because, again, removes them from the game. 9 cost is a lot, but there's 2 sides to this card, and there's 2 main strategies in why you're playing this. You're either playing a 1, maybe 2 of in the Fire and Ice deck is kind of a late game, because you never want to see it early. You don't want to see it mid game either, because you're still trying to set up your board. But if we see this like turn 6, 7, 8, fine. If we top deck this late game, I don't care what's in my hand. I don't care what's in my backups are. I'm going to spend all of my resources to play this, because I'm going to be able to remove 2 of your blockers and tap the third one down with Snow, and you're probably going to swing for, again, 3 or 4 points of damage in that turn. So it's great as a finisher. But then also in these cloud control types of decks where we know that they're going to be playing things like Golbez, it can really help us live, because we can't play a fair game against Golbez. This deck does not do well against a Golbez deck that goes wide. Sure, Meteor Rain can kill things like Zidane and the smaller guys, but they will still be able to pull out 5,000 drops or a 6,000 Seraphy that can really kind of hurt your game plan. So it's not going to kill everything. It does a little bit. Again, we don't want to be playing the fair game. So Bahamut helps us get back in the game, get to remove their Golbez, and we can still play a more fair game, for lack of a better word, than going forward. So Bahamut is great as a 2 of. Again, I won't personally say 3. If you play 3, be my guest. In these types of lists to play that more catch-up mechanic. And then lastly, just kind of a card that has been absolutely amazing is Prish. Whenever she blocks, she gains plus 4,000 power. Now, thing to note here is it also increases her health. So she goes up to a 12-12. Let's say she takes, 10 damage. She blocks again. She goes up to a 16 and then 6 at that point, because she'll gain another 2. So if you can accurately map out how you're going to block her, kind of what power you're expecting to come through to target her, you can just block all their forwards. And again, important thing to note here is that you can give her Brave. If you can see, her, Guy, Light Cloud, they all have Brave. So we can be very aggressive when we need to and just swing out with our guys with 0 punishment. We can always have a blocker ready to block, and that's extremely important for how this deck operates. So that is a very high-level quick overview. What are the decks to watch out for? So again, Earth Lightning Midrange. It won the event in Italy. I expect to see a lot more of it going forward, and it's definitely an interesting archetype to go off of. Again, the Cecil being a main metagame call. Golbez.deck featuring Strongest Sword Gilgamesh. I personally like the no pack-up version, because then you do get all these extra break effects, which can be very, very strong. And I think Golbez is just here to stay. As I mentioned, as Opus 2 comes out, 3, 4, 5, what have you, we're going to be getting more 2-drops to play with, and more 2-drops that are just going to be able to just enhance this deck and make Golbez an even better card. So that's something to keep on your radar. Earthfire featuring Cloud, again, beating a dead horse at this point. Like Cloud is the best legendary in the set. We're seeing an Earthfire deck pop up at least one in every top 8 list, if I'm not mistaken, that I've seen so far. So very common deck. And then Icefire with Snow and Land. Now again, I want to stress that I by no means think that this meta is solved. It's not finished, or this is not like the only top 4 decks that you should be playing. But a lot of people have been asking, okay, what are some popular decks? What decks are doing well? What cards should I look out for? What cards should I buy? And that's why I wanted to do this video really quick and kind of give you guys a snapshot of what to expect and what's coming around the corner. So that's all I have for the video today. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I hope you don't mind that I pulled out just those 4 specific decks. I know there's a lot more decks out there and some interesting brews I might have missed. I will go back and cover those at some point, but I really wanted to make sure I highlighted kind of the important elements and the important decks that we've been seeing top consistently both in Japan and now Italy. So thank you very much for watching, guys. Let me know in the comments down below what you think about these decks, what you would change about the decks, and kind of what other brews you might want to see going forward. But again, I will be doing more of these videos in the future and try to give you guys a snapshot, maybe once a month, about decks to watch out for. So thank you very much for watching, guys, and I'll catch you on the next 6 Stages Gaming video. Have a good one.